up, sexy people of the internet? It is Dave. It is the Filth Man Duncan. Back from Metal Epidemic.
The Filth Man Duncan is a nickname I don't want. So,
But it's the one you need. Back for another album review. And for this review, Duncan and I have been checking out the new album from UK post-black metal band Underdark. The band's new album, Managed Decline, will be released on November 24th via Church Road Records. So, formed in 2015, this will be album number 2 from Nottingham's Underdark, which follows up their 2021 debut, Our Bodies Burned Bright on Re-Entry. With Managed Decline, Underdark continues to push the boundaries of their genre, delivering a deeply immersive and thought-provoking experience. This album is poised to be a significant milestone for the band, showcasing their growth as musicians and their dedication to crafting music that resonates on a profound level. Underdark's music is a sonic journey that transports listeners through a range of emotions, from hauntingly beautiful passages to moments of intense catharsis. Their ability to seamlessly combine the ferocity of black metal with the expansiveness of post-rock sets them apart in the modern music landscape. The album is centralised around a story told over 3 generations about the degradation experienced by the residents of a post-industrial town in the Midlands. Vocalist Abby explains this further by saying, "I wanted to explore the long-term effects of Thatcherite neoliberalism and the slow-burning disaster they've caused for people here. Each generation has to make do with less and turns to more extreme vices to cope as the loss of purpose and community sets in." Okay, Duncan. So, few reasons that I picked this album. Firstly, both of us have big love for Church Road Records.
I've never heard of them.
I think they are having a tremendous year. They're absolutely killing it, and I'm always intrigued, to hear when there's something new comes through from them. Like, okay, I can't wait to check this out, because the bands that they pick up, that they add to the roster, are always really full of character. They've got a bit of originality. They're quite individual. So I was in at that point. I was like, cool, new Church Road band, going to check this out. And then I was like, hold on a minute, Underdark. Why do I know Underdark? I know that name. So I did a wee bit more research, Duncan. Turns out this band's been reviewed on Metal Epidemic before.
Oh, well, there you go. Could it by any chance be their debut 2021 album?
It was indeed, Duncan. It was indeed.
There we go.
Reviewed on the website. Now, that review, it scored very low. Very low.
Very low.
Very low.
We only have 5 integers here. How low are we talking about?
Pretty much as low as it'll go, Duncan.
All right.
I remember when I saw the name and I stuck it into the site, I was like, God, right, I remember this. I remember this review actually being posted, and I remember all the comments and the backlash. It was all coming back to me. At the time, I didn't necessarily agree with the review itself.
You don't have to, Dave. You are but the shepherd trying to, lead your sheep into the pen.
Well, this is true.
If one of them runs off, goes rogue, and just in general is a bit of a dick,
well,
there's nothing you can do about that, Dave.
There's not. For that review, that sheep was wildly inaccurate with some of the points he made on that review, but it was his opinion of the album.
Opinions, Dave, are much like people we don't like. We don't like them.
Yeah. He is, however, no longer with us.
Do you use what clarifies no longer with us?
In a reviewing sense.
Good, right.
Don't mean he's dead.
And it wasn't because he wrote the review of the previous album.
I've no idea. He just
potato, Dave, is what you're saying. Potato, potato. Read into this what you will. Watch this empty space.
Yeah.
Fill it with your own thoughts.
He's no longer here. He's sleeping with the fishes, Duncan. Also, if you needed a third reason for me to pick this album, the guitarist of the band, posted a photo of himself recently on Instagram wearing a Zetra t-shirt. See? I knew that would do it.
And I didn't mention him this time. He mentioned him. We opened the Zetra door. Let's talk about Zetra. My enduring fascination, love, and just obsession.
Yeah. I went back and I listened to the debut. I was like, right, I need to go back and listen to this. I'll put up front, I am not the biggest black metal guy in the world.
A liar.
I have my specific subgenres of black metal that I enjoy, but I wouldn't say I was like an absolute enthusiast of it. But I went back and I listened to the debut, and while that now deceased reviewer had an issue with making out what type of band Underdark wanted to be, to me it was pretty clear, to be honest. Like, he had a huge issue about what's this post-black metal. Like, I think he was still living in the 90s. I don't know what was going on, but
there was post-bands in the 90s. Oh, no. Post-punk existed in the 90s.
This is true. It's a true story, Duncan. Okay. And that's why he's no longer with us. Although, what I would say, I don't think they were fully fledged post-black metal on that first album. I think they still leaned on the heavier side with a kind of raw, almost like traditional black metal delivery at times. But the kind of cinematic, kind of like black gaze or post-rock, those elements were certainly a component of their sound on that album. I think the main thing that kind of stood out to me on that release was just how brutally raw and kind of honest it was. I actually really liked it. I went back and listened to it. I thoroughly enjoyed the album. And then I got stuck into Managed Decline. Managed Decline still has that. It still has that raw honesty about it. But it sounds like it's clearly from a band that have taken their sound to that next level. I'm going to go on record here, Duncan, and I'm going to say this is my favourite black metal album of 2023.
There we go.
And that's a statement I do not say often, Duncan.
It doesn't, because then you'd be like...
This is the first time I've ever said it. First time.
What did I say to you before we started recording our first review?
You said there was one of these albums that stood out to you more than the rest, and it was the one you were least expecting, I think.
The one that I expected the least from that delivered the most.
Yes. Also, it was Underdark. Right. Oh, right, okay. Yeah. Interesting.
It's because you said to me, well, I'm throwing a wee black metal album into the review mix, and you saw my face, and then you were like, it's on Church Road, and I was like, for Sammy, we will go there. But only for fucking Sammy. Anyone else can get in the fucking bin, right? But for Sammy, we'll sit down, we'll sip from this poison chalice, and we love Sammy. Apparently we love quite a lot of people.
We do.
Which generally, under certain lights, would make us sluts, but I'm fine with that. I embrace that moniker.
Makes you filth, Duncan.
Filth. I went in this fully expecting a one-dimensional black metal album, and this is a fully realised three-dimensional album.
3 dimensions.
Yes. I love a lot of this. Like, a lot of this is very much my tempo. So
to say I have rinsed this album, Duncan, is an understatement. Definite understatement. This is extremely well done. This is like very, very well done. Even from the intro, like the intro sets the scene on this album with this kind of brass piece that kicks things off. And like, I'd read the press release already, and I was like, fucking hell, I do feel like I'm kind of transported back to the fucking 70s here with this first intro track. Like, I could already tell, like, from that alone, this was going to be a lot more nuanced an album than the debut, and 100% is like, this is much more refined. It's more polished, but even the balance of the production is has a bit more polished it, but not in a way that it loses that kind of raw intensity that you had on that first release. I feel like sound wise they probably have leaned a little bit more into that post black side on this one. Everything seems a bit bigger, a bit more a bit more epic sounding when it comes to the kind of melodic lead work and those black gaze type chords that they're using. But I also love the fact that they haven't abandoned that like traditional black metal side of their sound either. Like if you listen to Employment, for example, on the album, it kicks off and it's got a almost like you could say a kind of Svalbard type like clean kind of guitar work, big like atmospheric chords that leads into that kind of
Not for long, Dave.
no, not for long, and it kind of starts to teeter on that kind of black gaze kind of sound, and then there's a moment where it just embodies that like bitter kind of true black metal sound, and it's like the switch on it is fucking beautiful, like just right into this really savage sounding riff, and then they transition that into this really cool groove as well, which I was like, fucking what is going on, what's coming next? It kind of like they don't sound like alike, but it reminded me a little bit of a Not On For Crippled Children, where they kind of blend that, like they have like various kind of sub-genres of black metal, but then they do kind of merge it with this more traditional side as well at times. But the transitions on this are just so like they just flow like so well. Like the whole album just flows really well. But it's got so many moments that are rewarding along the way. And I think that's one kind of major thing from this album is that the songwriting on this has come up quite a huge bit, and the way that the tracks are structured, making them far more engaging. Like I was constantly kind of zoned into this album the whole time. There's various like tempo shifts and rhythm shifts, so it keeps you interested throughout each track. And a lot of like black metal albums, they tend to have like they stick to a certain pace for a lot of the time. But I didn't have that at all with this album. It didn't become repetitive for me at all. And opening with a track like the Managed Declines, after the intro, obviously you've got Managed Decline 1, which it's like almost 10 minutes. So you need that variety. It's quite a bold kind of move, opening up your album with a 10-minute track. But as I said, they had me hanging on every second of it, because as like bleak and dark as this can be, they use that like uplifting side of the melodic lead work really smartly to give you these little kind of like bursts of brightness on the album, which I absolutely loved. I think the balance of this album is executed far better than they have had done previously. There's so many kind of standout moments on each track that it just kept catching my attention, and then I would just hold my attention for the rest of the track. Managed Decline 2, which is actually the closing track, it's probably the highlight for me in terms of that kind of balance. The kind of the ebb and flow of the darkness and light on that track was just spot on. It has that kind of like that real like glimmer of hope in amongst the kind of heartbreak and misery of the track. I think for me though, one of the biggest developments I suppose that I heard on this album are the vocals of Abby Vasquez. I liked Abby's tone on the debut album. It was a bit more like I don't know how you would describe it, kind of more gargly, kind of black metal sounding on the debut, with these moments of kind of real kind of guttural moments, but more almost like more throaty than raspy, if that makes sense. But here on this release, that vocal tone has become much fuller sounding. I feel like she's got more control, and that the throatiness of it has moved into something more kind of visceral on this one. The guttural vocals or the guttural moments are still there as well, but I felt like they were placed in areas that worked better with the tracks, as opposed to just like we just add them in because we know she can do them. There was some really nice kind of layered moments as well, where they combine the kind of high screams and the low screams, and then when they do switch into something slower with that kind of more kind of groovy feel, the guttural stuff worked really well. Track 6, Enterprise, which is probably the kind of heaviest moment of the album, That track has some real like kind of gruesome moments vocally from Abby. But she also hits like both ends of the spectrum, so there's really cool highs on there as well. The emotional side of her voice as well, I think, also hits harder on this one. You can hear it on the album Closer probably the most. Just fantastic closing track that it's one of those tracks where you just feel like every note that she's screaming on that track. But to be honest, I feel like the band in general have put in an incredible performance on this. From the guitar work is super slick, never sounds repetitive. The drumming is exceptional as well, hits really hard, very like machine tight. Even the bass work as well is really good. I loved. There's a kind of moment on the end of Managed Decline 1 where it kind of switches into this really big, thick, kind of distorted bass sound at the end, which I thought was really cool as well. Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this. I thought this was fucking awesome. As I said, I don't listen to a huge amount of black metal. I probably lean more into the death metal side of extreme music, but when I do listen to black metal, it tends to be something that has a bit more atmosphere or more of an emotional streak. And Underdark's new album has all of that. And if the amount of times I've played this in the last week as an indication of anything, then I imagine I'll be spinning it a shitload more as the weeks go on. But yeah, I thought this was fucking great. Really, really enjoyed it. What about yourself? What do you think?
See, I love us not chatting about the music that we've listened to in a week and then catching up. I think it works really well for moments where we do have like supreme synchronicity. Also actually really works at moments when we're at total odds with each other and you're saying something, I'm like, I don't fucking get that at all. Like, I didn't realise this was Dave's week to go off his meds. You know what I mean? Like, so like those moments. This is one of those weeks where like you're going beat by beat and I just feel like we had the same listening experience.
Oh, nice.
I think this is exceptional. We like if you go back, you listen to our archives of recordings for the last couple of years, you'll know that there is a trend when it comes to black metal for me, and that is that the more black metal it gets, the less interesting I get. But the more that it's used as a technique surrounded by other elements, the more I actually really, really, really wish I enjoyed just pure black metal. But I can't do it. The bands that incorporate those kind of post-black metal elements are the ones that are really, really interesting to me, especially when you add a bit of, like, specifically the elements of atmosphere that are taken from black metal in a post-black metal scenario. I think are the ones that really wow me, and it's all over Managed Decline. It's just it's an album that's kind of dripping with tone and atmosphere, permeates every second of the listen, whether that is the moments that go into the depths of despair and the moments that reach for some glimmer of light. And you have those moments. They tend to be kind of shorter sections or on shorter tracks. Raise for the World That No Longer Exists, whilst that has a very bleak name, musically it has a fairly optimistic feel, is then followed up by Enterprise, which knocks any glimmer of any hope out like cold. Vocally, let's touch on it because you mentioned it. I love the technique here. It's measured. It's very deliberate. It plays in almost 3 different spheres of tone, in a really cool way. At its highest, most kind of common delivery, it actually reminds me of a slightly more savage Rollo Tomasi. Her tone when she gets a bit savage is on the blackened edge, and that's here. She can drop to something a little bit more mid-range, and it's kind of cool, and then a kind of slightly more gutturally sound, which is really, really, really gruesome to listen to, and it fits everything. It's produced really, really well as well. The tendency to produce those vocals is to try and fuck around with it too much, and they don't. There's a bit of reverb on it, and that's, to be honest, all you really need to deliver it. It's also in keeping with the aesthetic, the tone, and the vibe of black metal. The guitar work in this is exceptional. I mean, yes, it'll go for the it goes for the really, really fast fucking black metal-y picking, but the moments in between the chord choices, the lead work, and some of the quieter moments are like borderline sublime, like haunting melodies that just like interplay and kind of work against savage, sharp, like shredding. It's really, 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 really well done. The bass work is audible, so I've already fucking loved the production. And yeah, like like you pick it out, it's nice and clear, and there are moments where you get those flurries in it to shine. The drum work is the bit that kind of almost goes against the grain of black metal. It's surprisingly well produced, and I love it for that. I want the detail because the playing is exceptional.
Yeah.
So I want that detail, I want that flurry, I want that ability for things to come in and make me just like be like kind of grabbed by it. The elements where they mix in, I think you called it black gaze, and it is a kind of quasi black gaze. It is a kind of almost weird alternative streak that they bring in as well, which I really, really, really dug. Are the moments that the band like dare you to expect what's next. Like even on a track like Enterprise, which is as savage as it is for the majority of its runtime, has a whole breathed section of clean played guitars and atmosphere and vibrancy, and the whole sound opens up. Once again, it kind of reminded me a little bit of Rollo Tomasi, not in style but in technique, how they will give you something where you're like, holy fucking shit, and then out of nowhere they'll just be like, oh, and then there was light. You're like, fucking there's light. And they do that like effortlessly, and they use it so well. The song construction is impeccable on this. It is 7 tracks long. It's just a little over 40 minutes. But I felt kind of when this album finished, I could have went another track. Like I was that much into it.
Yep.
The kind of bookending Managed Decline parts 1 and 2 worked really, 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 really well. Compositionally, excellently delivered. But you get just everything about it just made me more engaged and more engrossed by the playing. Matrimony has some moments on it that are just jaw-dropping in terms of the kind of clean lead work. It's like chef's kiss. And it finishes super fucking strong. It finishes with prominence and with dignity. And I, like yourself, like with the first time it finished, I was just like, like one of those listens that you get where a sigh comes out, a sigh of satisfaction. Like the same way I felt the first time I listened to like the first Mountaineer album, or the same way I felt the first time I listened to the first Chrome Ghost album. Flesh of the Stars this year's given me that, or Ockrust. Like when you get to an end of an album, you're just like, you didn't fuck it up. Like, you stuck the landing. I was waiting for the moment where the penny dropped, and it didn't. You stuck the fucking landing. And Underdark stick the landing. A band that are mature beyond their years. Like honestly, like if you told me they've got like 25 years behind them, I'd be like, yes, it's evident. It shows obviously who thought they were a young band. It's such a confident fucking release. It's like for a second album. It's needlessly confident. And it's excellent. It gives you that. When people think of post-black metal, they kind of fall into the Mole or the Deafheaven camp, or that kind of black gazy predominant sound. And I think we forget that there are bands out there. I mean, like Underdark don't sound like Mole.
No.
But at the same time, there are so many crossover elements when those clean atmospheric segments come in. You go, oh yeah, I get it. It's the same with Deafheaven. Like there's those elements that join the sound and make it technically one genre, but at the same time, this band has so much more of its own personality there to grab through. I'm going to join you on the statement that my favourite black metal album I've heard this year is Managed Decline. Like that way, like remember when we finished like year 1 of Metal Epidemic, we got to the end and more like, you know what's like an exceptional listen? Is that Gary album. Like, it just like fucking horribly atmospheric and just dark and dank and all the rest.
Yeah.
And then everyone cottoned onto that, and now Gary are a much bigger band. I'm sticking my flag in the ground for Managed Dark here. I think give them 2 years and see where the landscape is. I think a lot of people are going to be turned on to this band, and I think they fucking earned it. This album is really, 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 really fucking good. And I didn't realise they had an album out before. I will go listen to it. Chances are I will agree with you and disagree with the former reviewer. May he rest in peace. I was kind of hoping the camera was going to pick up like a cross or something like that. It doesn't. It just does love hearts. Like that, which is how I felt when listening to this album.
But black love hearts, obviously.
Well, if I could change them, I would, but I don't understand how it does it anyway. Once I work at the tech, Dave, I'll work on the colour.
Cool.
Right?
So, finally, scores for the new Underdark album. Yeah, like, if you like post-black metal with heart and emotion, but could also rip you in half at the same time, then the new Underdark is exactly the album that you need in your life. This hit me much harder than I was expecting. I didn't go into this thinking this was going to be all that it was, but I just clicked with it instantly, and I've loved it even more on each listen. I have nothing negative to say about this at all. I didn't have any issues with it. I was the same as you. When it finished, I just felt satisfied, and I was just like, I'm ready to do that again.
When was the last time you listened to a 40-minute album and you got to the end that you were like, I could kind of go some more?
Yeah, yeah, totally. I mean, I think they could have put another track in there. I would still finish on Manage to Climb 2 because it's a great closer, but like another track in there in the middle somewhere, absolutely could have. For me, 5 out of 5. I mean, like, we're in November and we're still handing out 5-star reviews, which is kind of mind blowing. But I thought I'd already given out my last one of the year. Turns out I was wrong. What about yourself?
Oh, I'm joining you on that 5. Yeah, like,
nice.
I fucking like, you know, I fucking love it, Dave. Still not watched the episode. I'll get to it, but I love. This is what I love about Metal Epidemic. This is what I love about music.
Yeah.
Like, I'm at an age now where a lot of people my age only listen to the music that made them happy 20 years ago, and I'm still finding brand new bands releasing music that make me happy now.
Yeah.
Underdark are it's more than one to watch. I think they have it. I genuinely do. Like, super excited for them. Oh, they're in the right place. Like, Church Road will.
Finger on the pulse, Duncan. They've got on the pulse.
Like trendsetters, like nothing else. They're on the right label. They're on the right track, and I hope that they get all the accolades and all the positive press that this album demands. It's a 5-star review from me, and yeah, very much like yourself, I could do with not giving out any more 5s this year. So. If the quality of music wants to drop as of now, I would be happy with that.
Yep. Agreed. So, Underdark Managed Decline out on the 24th of November on Church Road Records. Links below to the band and the pre-order. Check it out. Have a listen to this. If you like black metal, post-black metal, hit that link. Check these guys out. That is the review. Thank you for checking it out. We'll be back with another review very soon, but until then, take care. Speak to you soon.
Bye, everyone. Black. You can edit them. Make them black.